This is an absolute heist for the Toronto Raptors, as a bombshell just dropped from Shams Charania revealing that Jakob Poeltl has been extended by this Toronto Raptors team. And while certainly Jakob Poeltl did get paid, do not get me wrong, the structure of this contract is very advantageous to this Toronto Raptors group and allows this front office, whoever's going to be the president of basketball operations, along with Bobby Webster, to have some flexibility moving forward, especially in the next couple of years. So we're going to break down what's going on with this Jakob Poeltl contract extension, why it's so good for this Toronto Raptors team, and why I'm more bullish on this Raptors squad than I was just 48 hours ago. So lots of stuff to break down in this vid, but folks, I want to thank you guys all again. We got to that 38,500 subscriber mark, but of course the big goal is 40K, and this number hasn't changed because I've recorded these videos back to back to back, mid-recording in each. Big news dropped following, mid-recording. So we had the Mamu news as well as this Jakob Poeltl extension. So let's jump straight into it because this is some exciting stuff for this Toronto Raptors team. As Shams Charania just revealed, the Toronto Raptors center Jakob Poeltl has agreed to a 4-year, $104 million extension with the franchise through 2030 season. Sources tell ESPN. Jakob Poeltl will pick up his 26-27 year player option at $19.5 million and add 3 additional years to his deal. So this is looking very, very good. Shams also went on to say that his agents discussed several frameworks for a deal, such as an opt-out and extend, but the sides land on an opt-in and extend structure, giving flexibility to the Toronto Raptors in the next 2 seasons. And this is phenomenal. This is exactly what you're looking for in a Jakob Poeltl extension. We heard some news, some rumblings that this deal could be something that's around the length of about $30 million per year annually. That's stuff that we hear coming into it. And I looked at that and it's like, okay, that's solid value for Jakob Poeltl, given the current need for centers, desire for centers all across the NBA. Even Miles Turner and stuff, players in that caliber of center are getting around that pay range. But Jakob Poeltl's structure now, and Turner's contract was under what everyone was expecting, people to be receiving out there this summer. But all the contracts have been a bit under market this summer. So Jakob Poeltl's extension expectations may have dwindled a little bit, and that's what ended up being the case as. Blake Murphy essentially puts it out the year by year for Jakob Poeltl. So 19.5 right now for this season and next, and then it goes 26, 28, and $30 million. So we get Jakob Poeltl under $20 million for the next 2 seasons, and then we have Big Yak locked in for the multiple seasons following that. And the cap should rise, things should change, as we know. The salary cap just 5 seasons ago, right? The deals that were being given out at that point are looking like heists here now because the money goes up, especially with all these Amazon streaming deals and things like that. So this is a salary structure that I am very, very comfortable with for this Raptors group, even though it is definitely a lot of money being thrown away. Jakob Poeltl, I've seen some people be like, oh my God, he's making more money than Miles Turner or whatever. But the actual distribution of the money is very advantageous to the Toronto Raptors and how it's structured, and it's balanced out really, really well. So first thing I can say, shout out to Bobby Webster, shout out to the negotiating team. Without Masai Ujiri out here in the mix, able to get a very reasonable, solid contract done throughout all the turmoil of all the different moves and signings and stuff, or the moves. The move the Raptors made in getting rid of Masai Ujiri. With all that turmoil going on, they were able to execute on the 2 biggest needs in this offseason, extending Big Yak and then also figuring out what's going on in the backup center position. Now, we'll see what happens in regards to an RJ Barrett extension. I've been pretty adamant. I'd love to see RJ Barrett on this team long term. Trying to start a movement of more people that actually value RJ Barrett for the long run for this Raptors team. But given the expectations, given the even recent reports following the Masai Ujiri firing, that RJ Barrett is still going to be brought up in trade talks and trade discussions and stuff. So we'll see how things play out there. But that's the opposite end of what an extension will be looking like. But that's one and backup center. So. And if you didn't know, check out the most recent video. The Raptors did also sign, Sandro Mamukelashvili to, a 2-year, $2.5 million per year annually, roughly around $2 million per year for Sandro. So he's a 3-point shooting big man, spaces the floor, and this is our new complementary front court, which works out really, really well because Big Yak averaging 15 points per game, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block per night, 1 steal per game. He did take a 3 at the end of last season, so maybe we'll have 2 floor spacing big men. We'll see what actually ends up going on the go here now at this point for Jakob Poeltl's development there. But even if the 3-point shot, which is a dream for me at this point, but even if that doesn't come into its own, Jakob Poeltl is still one of the most elite under the rim finishers at the 5 position across the NBA. He's a phenomenal positional defender, and you see it out there on the court in terms of wins and losses. When Jakob Poeltl's playing this team, even during the past couple seasons when we have been brutal, when Jakob Poeltl's on the court, there's always a chance to win, just given the impact that he provides, especially on the defensive end and being a target with a high IQ out there in the front court. And he said, learning from the Spurs where they didn't have a lot of floor spacing either, he figured out ways to get into open space underneath the basket, getting into that sort of dunker spot and be able to catch the ball high, finish around people, and do things out there on that end. And then on top of it, you also have Sandro now is going to be able to space the floor and provide a different dimension out there at the center position for this team. And then, of course, your smaller ball fives like CMB that's going to come in, our number 9 overall pick. We have Jonathan Mobo, who's played some center at times, spot minutes, matchup dependent. The Raptors front court rotation now is in a very healthy spot. And then on top of it, you have Ulrich Shamshe, who is going to be in the development wings for this team that, of course, is not going to be, imminently a guy that needs to be inserted into the rotation, but definitely a player that the Raptors should be looking at in terms of his development and being a center for the future. So, Jakob Poeltl getting this contract here now makes sense in terms of the timing of everything, but it does lead to some considerations about what's going to go on with, the future of this Toronto Raptors roster and the people that we actually have on this team. Because, essentially, the Toronto Raptors right now have a lot of money tied up in different players out there on the roster. Like, if we take a look at how things are looking here, we have Scottie Barnes' big contract kicking in this season. Brandon Ingram, of course, signed his extension after getting traded to the Toronto Raptors. You have Immanuel Quickley locked in till 2029 as well. RJ Barrett on multiple years of this contract. And basically, if we end up keeping Jamison Battle out here on the roster, we picked up his partially guaranteed contract, which we better do given the value of that contract there. It's apparently puts us close, assuming there's no rosters or minimum deals cut. It puts us right above the luxury tax, which a team, given the position we're in right now and how money's distributed, it doesn't make sense for us to really cross that luxury tax threshold here now at this point. So ownership, we know if they're cheap enough to fire Masai Ujiri, they're going to not want to get into the luxury tax, for this upcoming season unless we're, in championship contention. So basically, the Toronto Raptors are going to have to make some more moves. There is some discussion about how, at the end of the season, that's when it's all judged whether or not you're a luxury tax team or not. So, at the trade deadline, these moves could come. But, given all the rumors, all the smoke, whether it be the big fish stuff we heard at the beginning of the summer, that has really dialed down since Masai Ujiri has parted ways with the organization because he was in the final year of his contract. He was getting pushed out there on that front. But regardless of that, even following the Masai Ujiri firing, we hear those updates about IQ being shopped, RJ Barrett being shopped, these types of guys. I would not be surprised, especially new president of basketball operations coming in, if there are more trades, more moves to give us more financial flexibility over the course of the summer. So we'll see how those things play out, but definitely a big win, a great day for the Toronto Raptors and bringing in Sandro as well as extending Jakob. So great stuff there. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. You guys are the best to make this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.